What if I told you that a silent shift happening right now behind closed financial doors could flip the entire global system upside down, and most people don't even realize how close we are to a currency shock that could rewrite economic rules overnight? So before we go deeper into this explosive update, make sure you watch till the end and share this video, because the information you're about to hear is the kind of detail that mainstream outlets completely avoid due to its potential to shake investor confidence and expose what may be one of the biggest monetary pivots of our lifetime. And yes, I'm talking about the IQD revaluation momentum combined with the rising speculation around the Vietnamese Dong reset, both of which are building pressure in ways that analysts didn't expect even 6 months ago. So let's break down what's truly happening on the ground, not the repeated recycled rumors, but the real structural and economic indicators coming out of Iraq and Vietnam that hint at a shift that could impact not just Forex traders, but anyone watching global currency health, dollar dependency, and international liquidity trends. Right now, Iraq is working through layers of financial reforms that were once moving slowly, but have recently accelerated thanks to regulatory tightening, digital payment modernization, and a renewed commitment to stabilizing the exchange rate environment. And this matters because historically currencies only revalue or adjust meaningfully when their internal economic mechanisms become strong enough to justify a new global price point, and with rising oil production stability, stronger trade agreements, and pressure from financial institutions to curb corruption, Iraq is carving out the framework necessary for long-term currency stabilization, which is exactly the type of foundation needed before any major evaluation shift even becomes possible. The dinar is not moving randomly. It's responding to political clarity, budget restructuring, and increased cooperation between the Iraqi government and international financial bodies who want Iraq fully integrated into regional and global markets. Investors who have been watching this for years are finally seeing tangible signals instead of rumors. And those signals include consistent reports about currency supply control, new digital banking infrastructures, improvements in anti-money laundering compliance, and ongoing discussions about restoring Iraq's full financial independence. At the same time, Vietnam is quietly preparing its own economic repositioning, focusing heavily on foreign direct investment, export diversification, and strengthening regional trade alliances, which gives the Dong an interesting position in Southeast Asia as the country moves toward more stable long-term monetary strategy. The point here isn't hype. It's the recognition that when two emerging market currencies both show signs of structural improvements at the same time, global currency watchers pay attention because synchronized developments often signal coordinated economic planning. And if both the IQD and the VND edge towards stronger valuation structures, the international system absolutely feels the ripple because it shifts balance away from over-centralized currency dominance. So, if you're ready to understand how all these moving parts connect, stay with me. Take a second now to like this video, subscribe, and turn on notifications because what you're about to learn will help you see the full picture behind the headlines and recognize the difference between speculation and reality in today's currency landscape. As we move deeper into this unfolding story, what most people don't realize is that global markets rarely react to isolated changes, but instead respond to combined pressure points. And right now, those pressure points are forming around energy supplies, trade dependencies, digital financial transformation, and the weakening reliability of certain long-standing economic frameworks, all of which connect directly to how emerging currencies like the IQD and VND are being evaluated by international analysts who now openly acknowledge the possibility of long-term appreciation based on fundamental metrics rather than rumor-driven assumptions. Iraq's economic landscape is no longer the unstable narrative it used to be. Instead, it is developing into a structured system where the government is actively enforcing financial regulations, increasing accountability, and expanding the country's digital financial reach, especially through partnerships aimed at reducing reliance on cash-heavy transactions. These developments may sound small, but historically, they are the exact types of reforms that come before major currency repositioning because they create trust, reduce risk, and allow international investors to treat the currency as more than a speculative tool. Meanwhile, the Central Bank of Iraq has been adjusting monetary controls, communicating more transparently with the public, and aligning its operations with international compliance standards, and every step enhances the credibility of the dinar. There is also a noticeable shift in how global financial observers discuss Iraq. Instead of dismissing it as unstable, they now highlight its rising oil revenues, rebuilding infrastructure, and gradual entry into the broader global financial conversation. On the Vietnamese side, the VND is supported by strong export performance, manufacturing expansion, and a network of trade partnerships that gives Vietnam leverage within Asian economic corridors. Analysts highlight that the Dong isn't expected to skyrocket overnight, but rather strengthen gradually over time as the nation refines its economic policies and reduces inflation pressures. This slow and steady strategy actually increases the country's credibility because sudden, uncontrolled revaluations rarely last, whereas stable, environmentally supported changes tend to hold value. So, when people talk about a potential currency reset, the real story is not a magical overnight jump, but a structured progression where countries improve their fundamentals and position themselves for higher valuation recognition on the world stage. And this is why you're hearing more discussion about a possible shift in the global monetary alignment, because when two countries, each in different regions, simultaneously improve their economic architecture, it creates a multi-layered impact on global exchange systems that have been heavily dominated by a few major currencies. This does not necessarily mean an instant collapse or destabilization of the dollar, but rather a rebalancing as other currencies become more relevant, more trusted, and more widely used in regional trade. Investors watching this understand that currency value is ultimately about confidence, and confidence comes from evidence, not rumors, which is exactly why the data coming out of Iraq and Vietnam is getting attention from people who once ignored these markets entirely. If you're still with me, make sure to comment below where you're watching from, because your engagement helps push this information out to more people who deserve to understand what's truly happening behind the scenes. Now, let's connect everything into the bigger picture, because this is where the true impact becomes clear and where most people finally understand why experts are saying that this moment could flip the entire system if conditions line up the way they appear to be heading. And that is because major global currency shifts rarely happen suddenly, but they often appear sudden to the public because the foundation is built quietly over months or years before the tipping point arrives. Right now, Iraq appears to be preparing for a more stable, internationally integrated financial system through regulatory strengthening, multi-sector development, and increased transparency. And these elements matter deeply because international currency valuation bodies don't reward countries for raw resources alone. They reward stability, structure, and reliability. Iraq's internal markets are adapting to digital transformation, banking reforms are underway, and new policies show a clear intention to move the nation away from fragmented economic patterns into a more unified and internationally respected monetary framework. These are real signals, not hype, and they explain why more analysts are now mentioning the possibility of a future revaluation path if these reforms continue consistently. Vietnam's outlook complements this picture because its economy is becoming one of the strongest manufacturing and exporting centers in Asia, supported by foreign investment and technological adaptation. The Dong's future strength lies in the country's stability and predictability, which are the exact qualities that attract investors looking beyond the major currencies. When you put Iraq's reform-driven momentum next to Vietnam's structured economic rise, you get a combined scenario where both currencies could play larger roles in regional and possibly international transactions in the future. This does not guarantee a sudden revaluation event, but it strongly supports the idea that these markets are evolving and that their currencies are gradually earning more respect within global financial circles. And when emerging currencies gain relevance, it always affects global power balance because economic influence shifts toward diversification instead of concentration. This is why some experts say the world may be entering a phase where multiple regional currencies share influence instead of relying heavily on a single dominant global currency system. Whether or not a major revaluation hits soon, one thing is certain: the groundwork for long-term change is actively being built, and the patterns we're seeing now are not random. They follow historical behavior of nations preparing for upward currency recognition. So, if you've gained value from this deep analysis, make sure you like this video, subscribe, and drop a comment because your interaction helps this community grow. And before you go, remember to share this video with someone who needs real clarity, not rumors, because staying informed is the first step in navigating a world where financial shifts can happen faster than anyone expects.